Alright, I am going to go ahead and kick us off, guys. So hopefully everybody can hear us all. Most of you know me, but I will introduce myself anyway. I'm Sierra Rush, or Zynxs, so that you know which of the female voices is me. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Ben Walters, or Kilsin, and he will then introduce Zoeii, since she has not been on here before. So that was
Hey guys. Hey guys, you guys know me probably too well. Sick of my voice. Kim is our QA lead, known as Zoeii by her forum name and name in Discord. She is the one that organizes and manages and leads up basically all the QA, all the testing aspect, all the bug reports go through to Kim. So she's the go-to person for everything pre-alpha at the moment and for testing going on from that. So we're very lucky to have her here tonight. She's a very busy person. So welcome, Kim.
Hey, hi everyone. It's great to be here. I'm gonna enjoy answering all your questions and talking to you about the QA process.
Absolutely. We've got some fantastic questions too. As I said a little bit earlier, we've got Zynxs and I are going to read from the VIP forum post. So basically in there, last week we posted the official questions thread. So we'll take turns reading a few questions from each name in there, and we'll try to get through as many as we can, if not all. We will take live questions too, because there are a few in there that we can't answer that will be, more for internal or just hasn't been announced yet, or for other developers that know more than we do. We're not going to speculate or anything like that. We'll just give you as much info as we know. If we'll read questions out that we can't answer, but we'll tell you we can't answer them and why, and then move on. And trying to keep it on the topic of all things testing and QA, if possible, please, and we'll get through as much as we can. But since we're doing so well on time, if Zynxs, if you want to start it off with the first question.
I can do that, yes. And then promptly hit my mic button incorrectly. So I'm going to start off with Sacred's questions from the thread. He's got 3 of them here. The first one is going to be, will there be different testers or groups of testers testing different aspects of the game, or will all testers get to test the same materials? And if I can say the word test in there more times, it might be,
It's
a little confusing.
Tongue twister for you. First question.
Exactly. Did you get that, Kim?
I did. So the short answer is no. We have different groups testing at different times, but everyone's going to have access to the same content. Now, your experience may vary based on the people who are on your realm, but other than that, we are handing the same testing zones and experience to everyone.
Very good. All right, I'm going to go to the next one, which is, have there been a lot of bug reports so far, and have they been adequate? Which is a big one, I think, for you.
Yeah, that's a great question. So for PA1, we had about 2,000 bugs that were reported. About 20% of them were unique and, very useful. So it's kind of an open question. So to answer that, there were a lot of things that would happen. Maybe a bug would happen because of an update, and very quickly, multiple people would report it, which is great. But on the back end, we had a lot of duplicates. So going forward into the next pre-alpha, we're just looking for everyone to hit the forums before they do their test session and take a look at the known bugs. And if you happen to notice something's known, go ahead and, you don't have to report it again. So, a good example was, we knew there were some issues with auto follow, so we asked people not to report anything related to that. So duplicates are going to happen because sometimes it's not a known bug yet. So we do expect that. The other portion of bugs that weren't necessarily entirely helpful were the ones that didn't have enough information, or ones that didn't have any type of reproduction steps. So going into the next one, we hope to see a little bit more detail. But overall, great reports, and we really appreciate it.
Good stuff.
Very good. So I've got one more here from Sacred, and that is, will VR continue to share screenshots of testing here and there? I hope so, as I thought it was really neat to see, and it seemed people really enjoyed seeing them. I feel like you might have more of this answer, Kilsin, than
yeah, we definitely will. There's no set schedule for it, but the CM team are definitely working on releasing little things like that, little tidbits, like you've seen designs of some of the buildings and some of the concept art, and plus screenshots from actual testing servers. We'll release kind of sporadically. There won't be any set dates for it, but yes. Short answer is yes, definitely.
Awesome. So I think you get to ask the next couple from Basgrim.
Yeah, moving on to Baz, who has 4 questions here. One of them is, do the servers still have to be tested through open play sessions for the time being, or will we be moving into more focused testing on specific mechanics? And that isn't really something that we can talk about at this stage. We don't. So the first PA was definitely very heavy stress test based to test the servers and to make sure that they could handle that kind of load, rendering, everything. It was a big step for us, and there's a lot of things kind of at play and being tested simultaneously, including the bug reports, which was fantastic to get so many early ones that we could jump on and fix, especially some of the big game breaking ones to improve the experience for you folks. But we don't really have any more focus testing. It'll be more, like we said at the start, when we have certain things that we need tested, we will then put out a message, hey guys, we need 10 to 15 levels tested on these specific classes, or in this specific area, or on these specific mobs, or using these abilities, kind of thing. But apart from that, we're not going to kind of stop you from testing as you want. So it'll just basically be a call out.
No, stop.
And that's pretty much it. If you want to add anything to that, Kim?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll just say that I keep in close contact with all the developers on the team, and if they have a particular something they want tested, I'll update the forums, and then Kilsin or myself will jump on and let everyone know. But do expect some focus testing, but for now it's a matter of getting everyone in game, having fun, and reporting bugs.
Exactly right. Moving on to Baz's second question, is the plan still to have an open beta in between closed beta and launch? We don't know that, man. It'll be up to the developers, and it'll depend on testing progress, where we're at, and whether the devs feel that they need something like that. I don't know. Typically you would have one, but it all depends, man. I can't really deny or confirm, but we will let you guys know when we get closer to that that phase of testing. Moving on to the third one, has the progress made thus far given VR a better idea of how long pre-alpha should last before moving on to alpha? And I know we can definitely say yes, that it has helped, but I'm sure Kim's got a bit more to say on that.
Right. So, that's kind of a complicated answer, I guess, because it's not any one person who looks at all the details and makes the decision. There's a lot that goes into the thought process there. So I will say it has given us a lot of insight into, where we're moving. But right now, it's not like we could give you a even a close target at this point. I hope that answers.
Yeah, it does, without answering it, which is about the best we can do, unfortunately. Like, we don't have a set date. Pre-alpha is going to take as long as it needs to take to get the game into shape until we feel it's at a point where it can handle the amount of people, which alpha is going to be thousands of people. So at the moment, you guys will know, if you do a check on the servers when you log in, there's only usually up to about 100 people per server. So multiplying that into the thousands for alpha is going to be crazy, and it's a pretty big step. So we need to make sure that the servers can handle that, and that we've got everything we need in the game for that many more people to come in. It's also not just the testing; it's also the management of behind the scenes and the information that we get and how we process that, how we deal with it. It's crazy amounts of work for the devs that a lot of you don't see how hard they work behind the scenes with this information. So there's a lot that goes into it, which is why we can't give set dates on things like this. I know it's frustrating for a lot of you who just want to know a rough time frame so you can plan holidays and time off work and things like that. But we let you know as soon as we get an inkling or an idea, when we can roughly pencil it in and have a solid idea that that's something we can definitely stick to. We will then announce it and let you guys know. But outside of that knowledge, we can't even really, it'd be a complete guess and probably not something we could accurately stick to. Moving on to the last question from Bazgrim, which is, were the Dragon Raid events just for fun, or were you actually trying to crash the server, or both? And I can tell you, as the one who did it the most and got in trouble the most, it was not supposed to happen. We had a command to be able to do that as GMs, to summon one thing and one thing only, and I got a little bit crazy and summoned about 10 dragons. And
it wasn't just you. I did 2 at one point, and
yeah, nice.
Yeah, there was some crashing happening. I felt really bad for one of my groups because I summoned it, it crashed, they all came back up, they asked for it again, and it crashed again. And then another group was fine, they never went down. The other server just didn't go down, but they never got their dragon kill, and I felt really bad.
Yeah, I had the same thing. It was kind of both. It was like I was talking to Dan, the chief technical director, and I said, "Is it okay? And is it going to give you good data?" And he said, "Yeah, go for it." He wanted to see how the servers handled it, how the characters would handle it with the load, with everything going on. Molad was looking at client and server information, all the data of it peaking and like capping out. It was actually pretty interesting talking to him in GM chat while watching you guys beat on like 5 dragons and have them wipe the floor with you. But so it was a bit of a joke at first and for a bit of fun, just to kind of end the session with something kind of cool to give you guys a good memory, a good experience. But it actually turned into really useful data for us that yeah, I kind of abused and kept doing over to the point where it was like overkill, and it turned out to be like a bit of a hindrance and was crashing servers and hurting the experience. So the devs kindly asked me to pull back on that, and we ended up not spawning anything after we got all that data.
In other words, someone else crushed his dreams.
Yeah, that's right. The Dream Crusher just got dreams crushed.
Alright, I'm going to go ahead and start with Kumu's questions. And it looks like we have 3. The first one is Bard related. Will all Bard testing be delayed until after release? Parentheses, assuming yes, and if that is too early to tell, but they're asking for a friend, so I'm pretty sure the answer is we can't answer this question.
Okay,
because it's Bard related. But do you want to
10
go
points
ahead
for effort.
and answer that one more officially, Kilsin?
Yes, he knows the answer too. I love his attempts though. So we want Bard and Necro in. We are working our butts off to get them in for release, but there's a good chance that they may miss that. And as soon as we can get them in after that, they will be. But at this stage, there's no plans for testing at the moment. Not in the near future anyway. But for alpha, beta, and so on, I have no idea past that. So yeah, sorry.
Yep. That's where we're at with them, but that's the way it is. Of course, it is always so cute to see how you guys come up with different ways to ask about them. So Kumu's second question is, will there be a test server after release? And I'm not 100% sure on that question, but maybe Kim knows.
I mean, I imagine we'll be doing tests, but it hasn't been, specifically stated that we were going to have a test server. So I can't say with 100% certainty, but I'm sure at some point we will want to be testing new release stuff.
Yeah, we've thrown some ideas around. The team has definitely spoken about it internally, and there's some good ideas for how we would do that if we went ahead with it. There's even been some requests to have like, VIPs and champions having access to it and stuff like that. But we're really not too sure. It's something that I know can benefit a lot of games having it open. But yeah, I'm not sure whether it'll be open full time or what. But yeah,
it's one of those questions that's near and dear to my heart since I played pretty much predominantly on test servers and EverQuest, and EverQuest too. But the second question kind of follows up with that. Will the test server, if one exists, pop up only near expansions or allow for permanent residence similar to EQ or Vanguard? And that's kind of tying into what we just said, is there's a lot of ideas floating around, but we don't really know for sure yet. It's something that we'll probably figure out as we get closer to release, though, just to kind of confirm that. But now it's your questions, Kilsin.
Yeah, cool. And just to finish on that, like towards the end of testing is probably when we'll have a little bit more information for that on you guys. When it's closer to announcing the release date, yeah, there'll be a much better idea. All right, so on to Shucklighter, whose first question is: the definition of long-term pre-alpha testing, alpha testing, and beta testing have become quite fluid. Can you give examples of progress you hope to have achieved at the end of each of these phases? So I think for Kim, I think they're like asking, is there any checkpoints or milestones that we're looking to achieve before we move on from one to the other, and is there any set timeframes? Which we have already said that there isn't.
Right, no time frames, but we definitely have milestones that we want to hit. And so that a lot of that is planned out. It's just not released to the public yet.
So and a lot of that relies too on performance, server performance, updates. Things can break things and set things back, so it's really hard to put a time frame on something like that. Or even sometimes milestones can get pushed back and delayed because of adding new things or finding a bug that breaks something else, and you can't then progress down those features and systems and abilities until that's fixed. So it's kind of chasing your tail, man. You can't really give a definite time on that. For his second question is: during which phase of testing do you expect testers to first have access to a group dungeon zone? I actually have the answer for this, which I've been given permission from Ben D to release, but I will give that information at the end of this roundtable. I've got a bit of info for testing for you guys that I think you'll like. Not to tease or hype too much, I'm sorry. I didn't know how to word that without hyping it up.
Oh, of course. Well, we don't have Brad here, and you have to have a little bit of a tease in here somewhere, so there you go.
Yeah, that's in his absence.
Yeah.
So during which phase of testing do you expect testers to first be able to reach maximum level? And that's a great question, because I don't even know the answer to that.
I was going to say, do any of us actually know when we plan to do that?
And technically, you can right now, because you see us running around on level 50 GMs. If you had the time, you would be able to level up. There's no limit to your levels, but you just, in the 2-hour period, you just obviously are not going to be able to get up to level 50.
Well, eventually they would, it's going to be a little while before I would expect anyone to hit max level.
Without GM hacks or cheating.
Without exactly. Without GM hacks.
All right, so I think it's on to me and Kendaran's questions, which this first one looks like it's going to be a little bit of a long one. What strategies and techniques do you intend to use when it is time to fine-tune PvE and PvP balance? With so many variables, including stats, gear, and abilities for both a character and his or her target, how does one wrap their head around all the numbers and permutations?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a great question, but it's a little bit out of scope for the group we have here. That's more a design question. So maybe look forward to a VIP with the design crew. But again, good question.
Absolutely, yeah. It seems definitely you really want the people that are going to be probably putting in those numbers and crunching them,
right.
basically. it's a
Yeah,
really big question.
it is, and it's a good question. I guess I should follow up with saying we're definitely interested in hearing feedback about those types of things, and there is on the bug reporter you can submit feedback separately. There's a different tab, so if you have feedback as far as balance, I mean, obviously we're not going to be taking any feedback on PvP balance just yet, but balance in general, go for it. We'll read your feedback.
Exactly. And just to note also, something that we've been pretty firm in stating is that PvE and PvP will be completely separate on separate servers, and the balance for that will be separate. So anything on a PvP server, if the gear doesn't, relate or work properly with, something to do with other players mitigating, certain damage types or something like that, yet on PvE it is balanced against mobs, then we can make those tweaks on the PvP servers that will not affect PvE at all. So they're completely separate entities, and we intend to keep it that way. So it doesn't answer the question properly for you, but hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea as to how we would go about managing those variables, is just keeping them separate so we don't kind of mix each other up.
Absolutely. So going forward with Kendaran's second question, when doing focus tests, will you ever have external testers start off with characters that are leveled up and geared for specific content that needs testing?
Sure. Yeah, I believe it's possible that we might do something like that, since what we're testing right now, it's really not needed. But when we start to get into those more laser focused tests, I wouldn't say it's not a possibility. It's definitely a possibility.
Very cool. It's a nice, easy answer. And then this one's kind of a more fun question. Can you share a recent testing victory over a pesky bug that required perseverance to reproduce and ultimately squash?
That's an awesome question.
That's a great question. I have been, neck deep in bugs for a long time here, so trying to think of any specific ones. There was one that I just couldn't figure out for a while, and it ended up being when I was running, if I had a certain spell or a certain buff on and clicked a certain key, it would cause me to run backwards. That one took me so long to figure out, but when I finally figured it out and I could consistently reproduce it, I was, patting my back. I was pretty proud of that one.
I think I remember that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Because it's one of those things that if you're not really 100% paying attention when it happens, you don't know what's causing it at all.
Yeah, and that can actually lead into a comment about some of the questions that our pre-alpha testers had. If a session ends before you're able to figure out how to reproduce a bug, it's probably best to just go ahead and keep that one on ice for a little bit and see if you can figure it out next time. Because when we get bug reports that just say, "Hey, I didn't get a chance to reproduce this," there's not much I can do with it unless you have a lot of detail. So just in those scenarios, you can hold off until you do have a chance to test it. And it'd be a little bit more efficient for us.
Very cool.
Nice. I'm going to skip past. Sacred has got some follow-up questions for Kendaran's questions, but it's PvP related, and we can't really give proper answers to will PvP be part of the testing efforts? I'm assuming it would be, but I don't know for sure. We would think later on towards the end, once we've got the PvE groundwork done and that kind of content sorted out, then absolutely, I can imagine us switching PvP on a different server, maybe dedicating one of the servers to being PvP only, and then testing those efforts. But we would test it in some form before just releasing it, so you won't have anything to worry about. And I'm assuming you'd be able to choose between either, or maybe go to an area that we would dedicate for that, but I don't have a definite answer, unfortunately. So I'll move on quickly to Perceptic. with one question asking what content has the highest priority in your opinion to be tested this round. And I'm assuming this round is the next round coming up, or
It could be just pre-alpha in general, but
yeah, that's that too.
Yeah, I'm gonna not answer this one because I have a feeling Kilsin will have the answer at the end.
Ooh, more hype.
Choo choo. All right, yours, Sierra, on
Yep.
pants.
I will get pants. I like it when I get the really easy to pronounce names because then I don't feel bad when I totally mangle them. But for pants here, what was the craziest bugs found during the pre-alpha test that surprised the developers the most? I can answer with one of my own that I found, that I'm sure other people have found, and I don't think it was necessarily the craziest, but I saw a bat flying by that had a, somebody had given it a mace, like a club, and instead of it just, you know, disappearing and the bat looking normal, you could see the bat holding the mace in its body. So it was like a bat flying around with its own bat attached to it. And I took a screenshot of it because it was one of the better moments. But if you basically gave a weapon to any bat, or any, I'm pretty sure any mob, this probably did the same thing, they'd hold it even if they weren't capable of holding anything at all. And I thought that was one that I saw get a lot of giggles internally, but I'm sure Kim has a couple on her side too that she's found that were pretty crazy as well.
Sure. I actually saw a bat carrying a torch, so that was pretty funny as well. Same bug though.
Yes.
There were a lot of weird things that kind of popped up. Players sinking into the ground while they were fighting. That was brand new. They smashed that one quick. Another one was our merchants were giving people loans so they could buy things and then end up with negative money.
Yes, I saw that too.
Yeah, it's like, since when are we giving out loans? So,
is that a feature at this point? Can we call that a feature? Could we do that as a feature?
It's a good economy, good money sink.
Yeah, there was a lot of interesting ones. I was really impressed by some of the testers who really found some odd things and that had multiple steps. So, but yeah, the negative money was really surprising to me. Surprising in that I hadn't found it myself, but as far as programming goes, it's not too surprising. But yeah, that one just struck me as pretty funny.
I remember getting quite a lot of tells when people were figuring that one out because they were like, "Are you aware this is happening? I don't know how to fix this."
All right. We've got Kendaran's got another one, but it's on crafting and gathering, which we can't really go into today. We wouldn't have the answer for you, unfortunately. So we might have to keep it in the bank for the next time we do a crafting specific roundtable. But I'll move on to Nostrand, who has got quite a few questions here, but they're relatively short and some have already been answered. So we'll try and go through a few of them for him. But the first one is, how many sessions do you plan to conduct prior to Alpha? Which actually, I think we've already answered this.
I think we did too.
Yeah, we don't really have a running kind of time frame or estimate. So again, the second question, we don't have a rough estimate for the duration of pre-alpha, as long as it takes, my friend. As soon as we can get enough information and feel confident, comfortable that we can move forward and expand to thousands of people instead of hundreds, then that will be the time that we move forward to alpha. But we can't really predict when that will be while we're still in this phase of testing. So, and you know, Brad and the team have said that we want to test, you know, the living crap out of this game to get it as good as we can get it before release. So every session will be pretty detailed, and we'll do as much as we can to make sure that the performance and everything is on par with our expectations and your expectations as we go forward. Will we be testing gathering and trade professions prior to alpha? Do you have anything you can add to that, Kim?
I have Am I allowed to say?
That's a good question.
Yeah, it's for the end.
Maybe we should hold on this one. I feel like they think we're deliberately teasing on this one now.
Yeah, I know. Can't really help it. It's kind of this what sucks doing it live. Yeah, we'll save it for the end. Actually, no. Do you know what? You can go for it. Do the testing and gathering one. Give them something.
I'm gonna say, as far as it coming in prior to alpha, I would expect it to, in some shape or form.
Cool. That's a nice neutral answer. Not committing to anything too much.
Very well said.
So at what phase do you expect to test PvP? As I said, man, probably towards the end. We've got to get all the PvE content right first. Get all the NPCs, the content, the quests, the combat, everything right before we start then allowing players to attack each other.
Well, I mean, I allowed people to try to take me down.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Other than the GM hacks with like involvement testing and GM kill and stuff like that, it's this specific them allowed to attack each other. I don't know, but I would assume it'd be towards the later stages of testing once we get everything else figured out. And the crafting one has been answered. And so as the high level ones, we will probably some stage towards the end add in when we're up to the high level content, dummies or some kind of way to boost yourself with gear to go and test that, or we will hand it out or something along those lines. But yeah, we're not quite there yet. As for the PvP and crafting and protected areas, I can't talk about any of that, man. We're not too sure yet. It's a little bit early. PvP will be its own different beast with its own kind of rule sets, and I think that'll be based on a majority of PvP players' feedback. We're not going to throw something out there and just say, there you go and enjoy it. We will listen to you guys and test that stuff first, and we'll find out what kind of rule sets and that are the most popular. And at least throw one of them up, if not a couple, to start with. And then we can build on that after the game's release, depending on what the feedback is. And the UI question, in the future, do you plan on adding the following features to the UI? Offensive and defensive, target, VG style, target marking for symbols and numbers, assist function, raid function, macros limited. I think we've answered a lot of those already. And yeah. I know the answer to most, but do you have anything you want to add, Kim?
Well, offensive and defensive targets, that's already in.
Yep.
Target marking, I don't have a specific answer on that. Kilsin, you might, but any of these items here, I would just encourage people to give us feedback if it's something you want. Yeah. Macros, I think we've already announced they're going to be very limited.
Yep, correct. An assist function like raid assist, assist tank or assist, that is something that I believe the guys will do. And the target marking I know has been discussed internally, but I'm not sure of the answer or the outcome of that yet. And that's it. Move on to Canna.
Yep.
For you, Zynxs.
So for Canna's questions, my question has to do with, were you able to fix, repair, and change a few things according to feedback, and was that helpful to, I'm assuming, basically our testing and our basically our milestones for progression during testing. So I think what she's basically asking is, was some of the bugs that were submitted really helpful to the progression from getting basically through pre-alpha towards alpha? And I believe the answer is fairly simple. But
yeah, so every bug report gets us closer to our ultimate goal. And as far as were we able to fix, repair, change a few things, the developers definitely fixed a lot. But I will say that, keep in mind that if you were in the first alpha, pre-alpha, and you'll be coming into the next one, just because you reported a bug doesn't mean it was within our scope to fix that particular bug at that moment. So some things, I'll give you a great example. So the way I triage any tickets that came in about issues with grouping is I sent those over to our feedback area, because a lot of that's going to change. So if we have an idea that something is going to change soon, those items might not have been fixed because it doesn't make sense to put the hours in. So keep that in mind as you come back into the game, but I think you'll be very pleased. Everyone will be very pleased with the fixes that we've put in.
Cool, that's a great answer.
Yeah, good stuff. So I'll move on to Evorus, who's got a couple here. His first question is, we all know that a battle plan rarely lasts beyond first contact. So did any events in PA1 cause you to have to reevaluate any strategies for future testing? And that's a great question. So did any of the players do anything out of the ordinary that made us or the devs think, you know, hey, wow, we're going to have to change that? We didn't realize that they'd be able to do that.
I'm not sure if I'm going to be answering this correctly, but I will say that there definitely were things that happened that, you know, we had an idea could happen, but maybe we didn't expect the outcome. For instance, there were a couple of exploits that were found, and instead of some players reporting it and moving on, you know, the exploit was used multiple times, and ultimately it caused us to have to wipe the server. So there's that, but as far as it changing our plans going forward, we're always going to be tweaking, you know, pre-alpha to the testing needs that we have. So there's a possibility that things could change going forward.
Yeah, good answer. He goes on to say, for the second question, since I am sure GM events will be included post-launch, are you planning on writing and trialing any test scripted GM events during testing, alpha, beta? I can say from our side of things, from the CM kind of team, GM team, that I am confident that we will test stuff like that.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. That I know that it's talked about pretty extensively. I don't know that we have a definitive answer, but it's definitely talked about quite a lot.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it'll be alpha or beta or when, but it's definitely on the cards and being discussed. And for his third question, I'm told fishing testing went well, but there is a plan to get. But is there a plan to get any of the 24-man fishing raids tested before beta? So I don't know if any of you guys knew this, but Kim will be able to speak more about the fishing bug that was crashing servers, which was a little bit of a joke to start with because that was pretty awesome until we figured it out. But yeah, and the fishing raids was also something that I know was discussed and joked about, but I think there was a hint of, you know, possibility in there as well. So I can't answer any of that, but I'll leave it to Kim.
Right. So yeah, there was a bug with fishing, and it really only took one person to go fishing to cause a server-wide issue. So we had a couple of bugs like that where it only took one person doing one thing. For instance, we had an issue where you could log into your character twice, and every time someone would do that, it would cause everyone to get errors. So, so phishing was one of those. I would say there is a good possibility that you could get a 24-man fishing raid going if you have 24 people who are as forgetful as me, because I've definitely gone into battle with my fishing pole equipped many times. And it is a weapon, so expect to do a little bit of damage, but not enough.
Yeah, it's one of those moments where you realize, oh, why isn't this dying? Why is this rat killing me? And you're sitting there just hitting it, and it's hitting you, and it's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere at all. I do think that it would be kind of cool, though, to see a raid where everybody's got fishing poles and they're actually trying to kill, like, Leviathan, like was just said in one of the chats there. Just future thoughts.
Absolutely. There was a raid in Vanguard where people had to craft during the middle of the raid while the other guys had to hold her off and do stuff. Like you had to craft hammers to then break these mobs that were frozen before you could then go on to damage them and do it within a time. And there was like DPS checks and other stuff going on. It was pretty cool. So I know we've got some VG devs on the team and a lot of very creative and talented developers and minds. So a fishing raid that is a combination of fishing and raiding and doing stuff. I can't say for sure, but I wouldn't put it out of the realm of possibility. That's definitely something pretty cool that the guys are looking to.
All right, so it looks like we have some questions also from 187 to go forward. A couple big ones. Question number 1, are all the features on this page, like future features, like we have basically an article where we have some future features listed. Is there features in game basically that are, or not in game yet, but that we were planning on, like colored mana, that we're still planning to add, that we may not be able to add soon, or that we may have decided that we can't really do that. And I think that basically what 187 is asking is actually something we can't probably answer.
No. The Pantheon different page is all kind of concepts of the vision for the game. So a lot of the stuff in there we do want to implement in some way, shape, or form. Some of it may not make it in, some of it may come in at release, some may be pushed way back. Some of it may be deemed to not work well with content that we do get in initially. So obviously the description on that page that an MMO evolved is correct. The atmosphere and climate, you know that we've shown that off in streams. Powerful spells and abilities with the Living Codex. We can't really talk too much about that at the moment. The NPC encounter groups and dynamic and things like that, yes, we've spoken about that. The disposition of behaviors, we've got developers that have spoken about that too. Colored mana system, I can't talk about. I'm not really too sure where that's going, or what the devs are doing with that. That'll have to be another dev. Progeny, again, very controversial kind of topic. It's a vision. I don't know if it'll make it in or not. If it does, I don't know when. But if it does, it'll be something that we, fit into the game that will blend well with our vision for the whole game overall and other features and mechanics. It's not going to give a massive advantage to anybody. You're not going to be forced to progeny over and over again just to keep up to raid and stuff like that. It'll be little fluff features or little kind of passive buffs or something that may help you, better with crafting or better with fishing, or something slight or minor that those crazy hardcore people may want to go after and get just for bragging rights. But they're not going to. If you stand two players next to each other at max level and one's progenied 4 times and one hasn't, you're not going to get the progeny guy to completely destroy the other player or blow them away with anything spectacular. So don't worry about that. Situational gear, yes, you will need to change gear for different weather and climate types and stuff. As Brad has said, the perception system is in. And other features like building outposts, housing, and player-run dungeons and regions are just really good ideas and visions that we have that we would like to include, but none of it is set in stone. Everything on that page is just like a blueprint of what we would like to put in. And yeah, I would go by what we have shown off in streams and in newsletters and stick to that. If we haven't discussed something, then it's still up in the air. We're not sure if it'll go in or not, but it could be something we're working on behind the scenes. And that's unfortunately the best answer I can give. So hopefully that explains it a little bit better.
Yep. So I think since you kind of tackled that one and it kind of covered the second and the third question he had, unless you want to glance at those and feel like there's anything you can add on there. But I'm pretty sure that basically what you just said is pretty much talking about those features. So let's go ahead and.
Yeah, sorry, I covered those three without realizing I'm just reading them now. So the only other thing is the state. Excuse me. The state of affairs is, I think we have one in the works. So don't hold me to that, please. But I know there was talk of a state of the game, state of affairs coming up in the next couple of months, possibly. Just to give a kind of a roundup of what's going on. So, I don't know how much of that will touch on what you've just asked with that specific kind of features page, but it'll tell you what we're doing at the moment. So hopefully that will answer some of your questions.
Yep.
And I'm kind of glad I did that, because now you've got Osho, who's got a ton of questions. They're all yours.
That works. I was just going to say, that's a lot of questions. So I'm going to go ahead and start off at the top here. What is currently the specific task / job of the QA in the Pantheon development in relation to the pre-alpha testers. Kim, that's definitely a you question, since that is all your wheelhouse there.
Sure. So as I understand the question, basically OSHA is wanting to know what QA's interaction level is with PA testers.
Yeah, I think basically they want to know what you do and what your relation is, how you interact with the PA testers, and kind of what our QA team does with the information that's given to them.
Right. So I work behind the scenes a lot, going through the bug reports that are submitted, and I try to pass feedback upstream to CS like Kilsin and let them know, hey, we're getting a lot of reports on this. Can we get things updated? Let people know we don't want reports on water or this and that. So I'm definitely keeping an eye on everything the testers are doing and trying to steer the ship in the right direction, if that makes sense.
It does indeed.
So definitely take to the forums and look for the sticky posts that I make.
That's definitely something everybody should be doing, I think. You tend to do a lot of the known bug reports and posting those on the forums, and just kind of generally communicating outwardly to us, as well as the dev team, what's going on and what you're seeing. At least that's what I've kind of seen myself. But the next question is, what are the different focuses between pre-alpha testing, alpha, and beta testing for Pantheon? And I know this was kind of asked in a different way earlier by Shucklighter, but basically I think what they're wanting to know, not necessarily time frames, but what are we really seeing in terms of differences between the testing phases. And I think basically, are we going to look at more group content, alpha and beta, or are we going to be kind of implementing it along the way, or is there going to be any dramatic difference between each testing phase, basically?
Yeah, there should be a big difference between testing phases, because as we move towards beta especially, we're going to have a more feature-rich experience. A lot more is going to be in game. And, looking back at that question about balance, yeah, we want feedback on balance right now, but are we at a point where we're saying, hey, balance is where we need to be for launch? No, because we're still adding things into the game. We're still adding armor. We're still adding, all these things. So you can definitely expect, as we move into the different phases, to be more feature rich.
Very cool. So the next question is about server performance. Is the team happy with the server performance tests and results with larger groups pushing the zone? Or do you still need to run further tests in the small scale zone and tweak the servers and netcode? And this might be kind of a question both you and Kilsin answer. I think I know the answer, but I think you'll both probably answer it better than I could.
Right. I think we're really pleased at this point. There's always room for improvement, but I was very pleasantly pleased by the server performance.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of fantastic feedback that came through with the server stats and netcode. The team was very happy. It was a bit of a juggle and a struggle to start with, but the performance sweeps that they've been doing and the work that they've been doing behind the scenes has been incredible to keep their servers performing so well. And I think for that last part of PA, I think you guys will notice the difference, how smooth it was compared to the start. And yeah, it's only going to get better from there. So it's a constant struggle too. So there will be times where it dips down and you will feel lag and ping and skipping around. But the team's all over it, and we make it a big focus to make sure that we're doing our kind of net testing to make sure that the servers are performing up to standard. It'll be a big test too going into alpha. Jumping from hundreds of people to thousands of people is going to be a really big milestone for us. So we're looking forward to getting them ready for that.
Absolutely. The next question is there a kind of roadmap which systems are going to be tested with the upcoming pre-alpha test phases? I think I know the answer to this, but I think you guys have a much better idea of how to kind of answer that one.
Right, so without giving out any specific details, there are milestones that are set and long-term goals, so certainly.
Very good. And this one I don't think we can answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway, just so that we can let people know that we can't answer it. How many pre-alpha test phases are planned, or what are the goal for pre-alpha tests before alpha testing can kick in?
I think the safe answer for this is however many it takes.
Yes.
Until we get it right, until we feel the servers are at a level that can handle the alpha crowd, and we have enough features, systems, and mechanics in there, and squashed as many bugs as we can to make that experience going forward better for thousands of people in alpha, then that's when we'll pull the trigger and move forward. But we don't have a time frame or a date, and there's no one particular kind of thing that'll trigger that. It's going to be multiple things, and it's just really too hard to guess.
Yep. So this is kind of, again, not 100% sure how much we can answer it, but are we going in the next phase to the next tier zone, or do we focus on other low-level tier starting area zones?
That's something we can answer at the end.
That's what I thought. So the next one, without teasing too much, are we going to test the available class systems and all their level tiers in pre-alpha, or is that going to be more down the road for alpha and beta? And I think basically they're asking, are we going to get more classes before pre-alpha ends, or are we going to see them in alpha and beta?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I can answer this. There's a possibility. I'm not going to say 100% no or 100% yes.
Yeah, I think that's
a good.
So just leave it at that. Good answer.
Yep.
Not too sure. There's definitely a possibility, but yeah, we don't know. It's a lot of work to implement a class, guys. Like, a lot of work. There's so much that goes into the planning, the preparation, the coding, the balance, like everything. It's just, yeah, it's a crazy amount of work. We want to get Bard and Necro in, obviously. So yeah, we'll just leave it at that.
Yep.
Plus, it just kind of goes back to design and their milestones, and kind of out of our scope.
Exactly.
Absolutely. That kind of tied into the next question, so I'm not going to ask that one. But is full-scale quest content testing planned only during alpha, or is it planned for pre-alpha as well?
I almost feel like I need clarification on this question, because we did test quests.
I think that, yeah, it's kind of hard to ascertain if they mean something more than is what already is in game. But I'm wondering if they mean kind of like more of a jumping quest line where, you know, you get one quest and then that leads into another quest and then another, and so on and so forth, because it seems like we have kind of predominantly one-shot quests in right now. But that could just be, I don't think that we have a really solid answer for that either, because what I know is not necessarily what is happening.
I read full-scale quest content as being like a fully fledged out huge quest, like an epic or something.
Yeah, that's
or,
kind of what I was thinking too.
More quest content with a lot of meat to it. Look, I know we'll definitely be adding quests as we go. There'll be more and more, but so far the PA ones are just and the perception quests are just to kind of test the waters with a few little game-breaking bugs and stuff. But definitely there'll be more going forward. I don't know if we'll be releasing any more for PA, but yeah, the alpha, there'll be definitely more going in.
All right, so I'm going to ask the last question on here from Osho, and I think then we have just one more post and we've got a couple of minutes. For which game design systems, 1 to 2 examples if needed, would you like more forum feedback and ideas, and which systems are you mostly fine at the moment, or even set in stone? I think basically, is there some mechanics and stuff that we want more input on, and or some that we want less input on because they're already kind of set in stone? And I'm not sure that we actually have the answer on this one either.
I can speak a little bit to this. I wouldn't say that anything is set in stone at this time, because remember, a lot of moving parts are, are waiting to be placed into the game, and things are definitely going to have to shift as new content comes in. However, you can look to the forums for any of the focus items that we want. For instance, at one point we shifted focus to questing. So you can expect that we will try to continue to guide you into the information that we want to hear from you. And at the same time, you can look to the known bugs for a pretty comprehensive list of what we don't want to hear about.
Gotcha.
Yeah, good answer.
And just so you know, Kilsin, I just refreshed the page. There's actually more than one post left.
Yeah, me too.
So do you want to go ahead and grab Sky Evil's post, I think?
Yeah, sure. So what are your plans for gear and attributes to help differentiate, say, a hardcore gamer that plays a wizard and a casual playstyle wizard, caster classes in general? Melee have always been more gear dependent for DPS, again, to differentiate the casual from hardcore. I think, without going into the rest of the question, I've read it and I understand what they're saying. I don't really think we can answer that just yet, because differentiating between hardcore and casual is partly in the mindset of the person playing and controlling their characters. So obviously at the raid level and high end level, there'll be extra things that you can do and that'll allow you to get gear that'll set you above and apart, with passive buffs and things like that, and possibly attributes on gear, or bonus effects, or whatever that may give you that slight 1 or 2% advantage in any kind of attribute or anything like that. But there's no real way to differentiate between it from our point of view, other than content, the way the guys design the content. So it's not really a testing question that we can answer, unfortunately. But yeah, just know that the developers are all over this. That it's something that they're keeping in mind when they create the game, and things like this. We've put up on the website that we believe in a and in regards to my CM question yesterday about how much do you think you can get done in 2 hours, that's the kind of thing we're thinking of building the game towards. So in 2 hours you can get on, you can progress your character, you can have fun, you can meet people, run a dungeon, or depending on the size of it, maybe a fifth of a dungeon, and do something to progress your character. But with attributes and everything like that, it's a little bit more technical to just pin it down to separating hardcore and a casual based on gear or attributes.
Absolutely. So I'm going to try to run through these fairly quickly. One of them I'm not 100% sure on. The first one is, will there be pre-alpha tests that last for longer than a couple hours, and basically like over an entire day? And this question is from Heidekin, who also told me to refresh the page.
I can answer that later on at the end.
All right, that sounds good. The second one, I'm not really sure we have an answer.
Definitely no.
Yeah, it's just not a no.
It's definitely no. White, grey, or black, it doesn't matter. Like, the devs do not like or recommend tampering with files that can result in further action. So do not do that unless they specifically ask you to do something.
Right.
I wouldn't tamper with any files or change anything in those files.
That's a good answer. So then the last couple are pretty good, easy ones. Will the next testing phase include new mechanics like pets and perception?
So perception is in. Maybe you didn't find it. Yeah, but the beginnings of the perception quest line are actually in, and we're in. Pets, they're in two in a way. I mean, did you play Shaman or Wizard? That's all I'll say.
Yeah, I think
As far as that.
that they're just not. There will be eventually more things along those lines. It's just right now that's what's in is what's in.
They're in their very earliest forms at the moment, in very basic kind of forms, but that will grow and expand as testing goes on.
And then the last one is, can we expect to see any new content, new zones, monsters, abilities, and classes in the next series of tests?
I can answer that at the end.
Yes, that's what I figured.
And the most important question:
will chickens be nerfed? No.
No. Absolutely not. Tyrannical chickens, come on, man. How cool are they?
We have to have the chickens. Do you know, I actually got my butt kicked at 50 by a chicken.
Yeah.
So I have to say they just can't be nerfed.
That was definitely my idea, by the way.
Nice. The very last question is by some troll guy called Convo, and it says, this one's for Zoeii. Who is your favorite person on the team to test with? You don't have to answer if you don't want to. I don't know. They're
troublemaker. I mean, probably Brad. He's got all that great gear.
He always looks good when doing it.
Good answer.
I mean, plus, I mean, he's like, EverQuest and stuff. But, Combo, he's okay.
He's only okay, though. He keeps stealing my pants.
He's a troublemaker. You gotta watch him.
I do have kind of a, Yarnella sent me a live question from the chat, so I'm just going to answer that before we wrap it up.
Cool.
I don't know that we specifically have this answer because it kind of pertains to patching. But will the testing groups rotate, meaning will group D, C, or B get a chance to go in first to testing after a client update so that these groups can encounter new content or, fixes first? And I'm pretty sure that it really just depends on when we release an update.
The answer is no, because A will always go first. It's always in order, and that's just how we rate the time zones. So it just depends on the actual time zone is how it's labeled with a letter. And A, B, C, D, it'll always be A first, B second, C third. But you're literally hours apart, so you're not really missing out. Nothing's going to be fixed within that time. If A get a bug, then B's going to get it, C's going to get it, D's going to get it. Unless it's like game breaking to the point where you can't log in, or it just completely screws the whole server up, then obviously A will suffer it and the rest will have to wait until we fix it before we can bring it back up. But unfortunately, that's the only answer we can give.
That sounds good. So what was that thing that we were supposed to talk about?
Yeah. I don't know. The hype's made me forget.
It's just so much.
Okay, so we will wrap it up, guys. It's been an hour now, and we'll do a hard stop. But before we do, I just wanted to. I've been given something by Ben D to pass on to you guys at the end here with some information on PA2, which it will start with being able to download the client this Saturday, the 17th. We need people to test the patcher and report if they are having any difficulties on the PA forums, especially if you were having problems last time. So I know there's a few people who were trying to download a patch and download the whole game again. So we believe we've fixed that. So starting this Saturday, the 17th, US time, we would like people to start trying to download the updates and just test the patcher and give us any feedback on that for a couple of days. And then on the 24th, the realms will open up. They will have, you guys will have Halnir Cave open in addition to Throne Fast. And we'll also extend the sessions from 2 hours to 3 hours, but they will be once a week this time. So we'll have AB usually on a Saturday and CD on a Sunday. Roughly the same scheduling as last time, except you get 3 hours instead of 2. And yeah, we'll throw in the extra Halnir Cave zone for you, and obviously other fixes and additions that you'll we won't spoil for you that you'll get to see when you get in game. But yeah, we wanted to just thank you guys very much for your support and for all the help you've given us over PA1. And we look forward to the same fantastic results and progress in PA2 with your help. And I want to say thank you very much to Kim and Sierra and the information that we were able to pass on and answer hopefully will help you in the next testing phase and help Kim keep a few less grey hairs.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys. And for the record, I have no gray hair.
I was gonna say that was just not a comment you should have made, Kilsin.
Whoops. No, my bad. I take that back. I'm sorry.
All right. Thank you guys both for coming. We always love to do this, and we should be getting you guys another one next month. Kind of depending on who we can get and what is relevant time-wise and what kind of content we want to be able to push out at that time. But we're really eager to see you guys back in testing and make sure you reproduce those bugs.
Thank you very much, guys. We'll see you on the 24th.
Thanks.